You can't put your 100% trust in anyone because everyone is equally struggling. There is only one place where you can put your trust, and that is Ishvara. In understanding the infallibility of Ishvara, you can put your trust. As I said, Ishvara has no agenda. Ishvara is impartial. Ishvara is, you can't attribute any intention on Ishvara. It is everything, it allows everything. It just sets up the rules of the game, it allows. You want to be a murderer? Go ahead. There is no control. The only thing is that if you behave in a certain way, the laws will work. That's the rule of the game. Nobody can escape that. So therefore, there is an infallibility of Ishvara. Once you recognize the infallibility of Ishvara can only be understood if you come to know the real nature of Ishvara. Infallibility of Ishvara cannot be you can't have unless you understand the nature of Ishvara. If you take Ishvara as somebody who's other than you, you will get into trouble. Why is he giving me a hard time? If you take Ishvara as having an intention, you will also get into trouble because you will say, how intentionally he is doing this to me. If you attribute only good quality to Ishvara, you will again get into trouble. You will say, where is all these bad things coming from? So in order for you to have total trust in Ishvara, you need to understand the real nature of Ishvara. Otherwise it's not possible. Only when you understand totally the real nature of Ishvara, you see the infallibility of Ishvara. When you see infallibility of Ishvara, there is trust. There is trust. You rediscover the trust that you have lost since childhood. In that trust, you get well. Otherwise, there is always dissatisfied you, which will not go away. The dissatisfied you who is complaining, who is not feeling well, who is feeling, it will remain. Controlling, so therefore, in the presence, in the understanding the real nature of Ishvara. So this is where our teacher used to tell us that there is a big difference in two sentences. That Ishvara is infallible, and the second is what is infallible is Ishvara. He says one has to graduate from Ishvara is infallible to a sentence, what is infallible is Ishvara. What does it mean? It means in the other case, you become the judge. You want to see whether there is order or not. You are the deciding factor. If you see the order in your understanding, then think what it is, Ishvara is good. But if you see some disharmony, Ishvara is what?
Not so good.
Not so good. So that means you are what? Judge. And your information you think is bigger than Ishvara's information. This is Ishvara is infallible. So that means according to you, something that you don't understand, the causes and all, then Ishvara is, I can fix Ishvara. I can make it better, I know it better.
Below my expectations.
Right. So you have to change and you have to see what is infallible is Ishvara. That means whether it seems right to me or not, whether it seems fair to me or not, There is a much larger order. The data that I have is so limited and highly skewed. And with the data, I can't but have these conclusions. But my conclusions are fraught with limited, inadequate data. I can't make a conclusion, world is unfair. That is seeing infallibility of Ishvara. Whether it makes sense to me or not. Whether I think it is right or not. It is what? Ishvara never falters, because Ishvara is all that is here. Ishvara is the laws. Not only the laws, but also the forms that are governed by the laws. So there is the only one entity here, there is no second thing. You, like an iceberg, is judging Ishvara as an entity, and you, what? And so that means there is so much ignorance in that position, so much. So therefore, one finds what is infallible is Ishvara. So that means, instead of fighting with Ishvara, you begin to what? Work with Ishvara, laws of Ishvara. That's when you begin to have grace. Otherwise, you are always struggling with this entity called Ishvara. You see yourself as separate and you say, now I want to figure out whether this Ishvara entity is there or not. It is very interesting. Our teacher told us a very nice story. He told a story of a mouse and a lion. So a lion was sitting in jungle, and a little mouse comes, and initially he's like really scared of this lion. So then he doesn't even dare to go near lion. Then slowly one day he comes a little nearer. Lion is nicely sitting, doesn't do anything to him. Then next day he comes even nearer, and lion doesn't do anything. Then one day he dares, and he says, okay, now lion is not doing anything. Then he climbs on the lion. And the lion is nicely, quietly sitting. Lets him climb up. Next day, he says, oh wow, that's wonderful. He is not doing anything. So let me climb up and start dancing. So he starts dancing, and the lion doesn't do anything. Then he feels empowered. He says, wow, the lion is nothing. I'm the king. So he starts shouting, I'm the king. I'm the king of the jungle. And everybody comes around, and everybody is like, look at this. Lion is nothing. I have won over lion. I am the king. And the lion is what? Enjoying himself. How am I going to what? Fight this little mouse? I do little this and he's gone. Let him enjoy the glory. He's having fun. Lion is having fun. Same with me and Ishvara. I am the one who is going to judge Ishvara. I am going to decide whether there is Ishvara or not. Ishvara is having fun. Ishvara's presence is not threatened whether you accepted him, the presence which is all-pervading presence or not. You can make any statement that you want. Hey, Ishvara has no problem with that. There is not insecure. Hey, please accept me. I'm there. There's no problem. Makes you enjoys your ignorance. Lets it happen. So this is how it is. Ishvara lets you do what you want to do, lets you think what you want to think, and enjoys the show. Enjoys the show, and that position of yours is coming out of ignorance. And the Ishvara is not in a hurry to remove that ignorance either.
And when the laws catch up, you go back to the same Ishvara and plead.
Absolutely. So that means there is no escape from Ishvara, in which everything happens. Everything, all the possibilities are given. From the highest arrogance to all to Jnana, everything is possible in this show. Somebody who can know one's total identity with Ishvara, that is also a possibility given. And the somebody who says there is no Ishvara, that possibility is also given. Somebody says there is Ishvara who's out there, that possibility is also given. All possibilities are given. It is your intelligence. You have to figure it out. So therefore, this is what you need to help yourself. And you need to rediscover trust. And you need to understand Ishvara accurately in order to make that transformation in your life. You can't say, I'm going to be exactly the same and I want the knowledge. It's not possible. Not possible. Because you are missing the essential facts. How are you going to be connected to the final truth if small truths are a problem for you? Not possible. So therefore, this rediscovering trust, living life on different terms is the fundamental. This is why there is no going back and all. Without this step, there is no possibility of knowledge. No possibility. You can talk Upanishads and anybody you can fool with a little, oh, Brahman is everything, oh, Ishvara is everything. Hey, it's easy to talk. No big intelligence is required.
If I accept this trust into Ishvara fully, and since I'm part of Ishvara, that
Yes.
of course also means that I then recognize for myself that I can trust myself fully.
Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful.
Despite what I may think
This
of my beliefs, my shortcomings or things.
Yes, wonderful. See, this is a very, very, very important point, Lutz. So, this is a very good point. What he's saying, in fact, by trusting Ishvara, you also begin to have trust in yourself. Because then what happens is you validate yourself. Generally what happens is we have a kind of very at a deep level self-non-acceptance, very deep level. That, oh, I did this, so I must be really, we carry burdens. Two kind of burdens we carry, guilt and hurt. Guilt with reference to what I did to somebody else, and hurt with reference to what somebody else did to me. Two things are part of individual, every individual. You can't get rid of this hurt and guilt unless you discover trust. You discover trust by saying that at that given point in yourself, how do you trust yourself? The guilt has to be converted into in the following manner. Not by denying the guilt, but understanding that I did something which was probably inappropriate, which gave me the guilt. That is what a natural outcome. Whenever you do something inappropriate, the guilt will come. It's a natural mechanism. It's a laws of Ishvara. Now, but the thing is, now you can say as an adult, at that time, I could not have done anything better. I was operating from whatever I knew at that given point in time. This is how you accept the guilt, but you release yourself from the burden. And you say, okay, I couldn't have done anything better, but today, I'm a different human being. If I have taken this lesson and I have learned from this lesson, and if I'm not going to repeat this mistake, then I'm free. I free myself from the shackles of the guilt by accepting it and understanding that in the laws at that time I could not have acted any different, but at the same time today I can act differently. I will not repeat the same action. Once you've taken your lessons, it's okay. You've learned your lesson through life. Life is meant to teach you lessons. So you make use of that opportunity. Neither you are denying your guilt, nor you are stuck with your guilt. In this Ishvara, you have to heal yourself.
This is what I do for coaching.
You do.
I use this method to get people over illnesses which I was talking. This is one where it catches up as an illness or a disease. That's the way
That's the way.
that's what I do. Just the other point from what he was raising.
Yes.
So when we, especially like the questioning we were doing and asking some questions around it, when we try to understand Ishvara, now I'm trying to differentiate between knowing and understanding. When we try to understand Ishvara, we are trying to understand from a point of Jiva, which means considering ourselves as an entity, we are trying to understand. I think unless you are attempting and your focus should be to drop the I,
Yes.
small I, then you start to know. Otherwise, reference will always be this saying, I'm trying to find the size of Ishvara, I'm trying to find that. You're qualifying with respect to yourself all the time.
It's a very good point. See, you can't either understand or know Ishvara without Upanishads. It's a means of knowledge, right? So that means you expose yourself to Upanishads, and the way Upanishads reveal Ishvara, in that revelation itself, there is no scope for you to be away from Ishvara. In that understanding itself, you are made to what the understanding, if you really understand it, is knowing. Because it doesn't reveal Ishvara as something which is other than you.
I agree. All I'm saying is that at this first level when you try to get it, and over a period of time when you actually get it, the difference is you're dropping the I.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point you're really working on the I, or the small I.
Yes.
And as you keep dropping the small I, the real the knowing becomes the strongest.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it right to say, reference to yesterday when we said we have to do both shifts to the whole that we are a part of, and that we are a part of the bigger thing, and the other shift that we are just water, not the ocean. Yeah, the essential. This is fitting in this totally. No? We have to do it all the time, both.
See, all the time both, but there is one danger in the last one, and that is at times one has to be careful. It leads to problem of dissociation. See, for example, if you have anger and you tell, oh, I'm this awareness, I'm not the anger, I'm not the anger, then sometimes what happens is that the anger and its root causes you haven't got well. It's remained like, some kind of a convenient way to bypass your anger. So that doesn't work, because the anger is within the laws of Ishvara. So and there are some causes which is making that anger what it is. So the first level is you need to use Ishvara to look into your anger, look at the causes, try to figure out which are your wrong assumptions and release it. Because unless there is release, this anger will remain. That is what we bypass Ishvara. And you just come straight to the reality. This is what will actually lead to all these problems. People try to bypass Ishvara and just kind of come to this reality, and when they become teachers, all kinds of things that they have not taken care of, they'll all start surfacing. They'll all surface. Because Ishvara will not let you go out. You haven't dealt with it. So this is how people get into power trip, people get into relationships, people get into all kinds of things because they have attempted to bypass Ishvara. They've tried to say, oh, I'm this awareness and I'm not affected by that. It's like lion enjoying the show. It is really like lion enjoying the mouse. It is like that. This is why Ishvara is a very, very essential step. Without which you don't get well. You try to bypass the whole emotional life, guilt, hurt and everything, and it will keep on haunting you, because in the universe you can't understand the truth without the truth, without confronting relative truths. If there is anger and if you're trying to bypass it without looking into it, it will keep haunting you.
A good example you say is, if you look at the eye from mirror perspective, if the mirror is dirty, you can't see yourself.
Yeah, that's
so
the
you
next
have to
example.
clean the mirror first.
Absolutely.
Before you can start to see yourself.
Yeah. So therefore, these two things are important. It's true that once you have, I asked this question to Swamiji once, and I said, Swamiji, now imagine that somebody is, let's say, feeling angry, right? So what does one bring? This whole Ishvara and correction, or one brings, that I am the whole, Swamiji's answer was very interesting. Swamiji said, it depends who's doing it. So that means the first level you cannot avoid. You cannot avoid. You have to look into it. Otherwise, it will keep interfering. Because that is Ishvara's order. Ishvara wants you to take care of it. Only then, in fact, you can really know the true nature. Otherwise, it will not happen. So the first level is something that you need to bring in, and you need to look into your relative individuality, and you need to do all the necessary corrections. You need to address your guilt, you need to address your hurt, you need to address your distrust, you need to address it all in the understanding of Ishvara. This is what we call getting well.
There is an expression that Swamiji was using for this. He was saying settling accounts
with Ishvara.
Yeah.
It's
another way.
Yes.
Unless you settle accounts with Ishvara, because you cannot escape that, so you have to settle accounts. And what Lutz was saying, very interesting, in the process of settling accounts with Ishvara, since Ishvara is you and the world and the people, then you settle account with yourself.
Exactly.
And you settle account with the world and people.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. I am expanding. That's all what I'm doing.
It's like a deep peace which shows up then.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Now, once you have done it sufficiently, once you have looked at it without trying to bypass it, you look into it, you make the corrections and all of that, sometimes the enormity of guilt or hurt or trauma and all that we have is so huge that our corrections, even if we do corrections, the feelings don't go away. So then you have to pray. Prayer is a very, very important tool, because you are helpless. You've done what you can. But you then need prayer. That is another level of relating with Ishvara. Say that I am doing, you help me to, now there is too much. You need to pray. That that is another relationship. And once you have done enough prayers, enough addressing, enough looking into it, then slowly at some point, after having done sufficient of all of that, then you can slowly bring in the final reality. If you have not done all of this and you keep on bringing the final reality, it will be counterproductive. So therefore, this is something that is very, otherwise, this is what, otherwise it is a mouse shouting, "I am limitless," like that. Nothing laughable.
Now,
So,
can you bring because what
yes.
you have done, in
So-
fact, it is really elaborating on the verse.
Yes, exactly. So this is what I say that now exactly. So dhyanam. So that means dhyanam is what? What is the definition? So that means now you are at a lower end and Ishvara is on the top. And
Two pieces of
you recognize the presence of Ishvara and you get well. Get well, take care of everything. Your guilt, your hurt, your resentments, your burdens, everything you have to. It's written here. So dhyanam meditation, which is unfortunately people have made it into some kind of a technique. Most of the time you ask people, they say, "Oh, I'm meditating." You ask them what are they doing. So they say, one thing they say is, just keeping quiet, no thoughts. That is one version. The second version is that some people say, "Oh, I'm just seeing some energy is rising." That is the second version. The third version is, "Oh, I'm just watching the thoughts." So this is what people do when they meditate. Here, the meditation is defined as what? You connecting to Ishvara and getting well.
Rubbing.
This is
like
why
rubbing
you are
the
rubbing.
two pieces of wood.
Exactly.
Like rubbing, the imagery is two pieces of wood to produce fire.
Yeah.
Before, in the ancient times, what do? You rub two pieces of wood, and by friction, what is happening? Fire comes. So here, by you settling accounts
With Ishvara,
and
the knowledge.
abhyasad matanam, rubbing repetitively means bringing again and again in your life this presence, settling accounts. This is the rubbing. Okay?
Getting well.
Getting well as a result. Integrating this in your life. Then
The fire of knowledge
can take place. This is the imagery. It's a beautiful imagery.
So the way we
So that means the meditation according to us is, we define meditation as Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. Manasa Vyapara means the mental activity. What is the subject of mental activity? Connecting to Ishvara. Meditation. So that means in meditation, because in class what happens is the teacher doesn't know your personal life and your personal life. Teacher only talks about the presence of Ishvara, how one needs to take care. But what is going on with you, you don't have time during the class to process it all. But if you don't process it, every class after class, you will only build from because your mind has not got well. So in meditation, you're sitting with yourself, you're using all the knowledge to what? Undo all your, whichever guilt you are carrying, whichever hurt you are carrying, whichever trauma you are carrying, whichever dissatisfaction that you are carrying, whichever orientation that you are carrying, everything has to be redone, undone. That is spending time with yourself.
And in the verse there is abhyasa.
Yeah.
Practice.
Repeatedly.
Repeatedly. Again and again.
Again and again and again.
Then only the fire can come.
Then only the fire of knowledge can come. Otherwise, it will not come. So this is why this is a very, that using this knowledge and getting well as an individual.
Okay, so you use meditation as a, maybe it's wrong, as a form of therapy to let all the stuff.
But in this therapy, there is Ishvara.
The therapist is
The
Ishvara.
therapist,
Yeah, because I know about phases in my life where I did a lot of therapy, and this is actually all the stuff out. No?
Yes.
True.
So that means, this is what Swamiji used to say, the Mahan therapist is Ishvara. Otherwise the local therapists, they themselves are in trouble. They themselves need what? Help.
That's why they became a therapist.
That's what many people say, that when you have had a very traumatic life, then you look for some answers and you become therapist. That's the background of many therapists, that's true.
But this is
So
in all
connect
professions.
with Ishvara and trust on Ishvara is a very big shift.
It's a very big shift. And as we will move, we will see there are so many different aspects of Ishvara. Ishvara is dharma, Ishvara is karma, Ishvara is emotional life. Everything has to be sorted before this knowledge can take place.
So something is going on in my mind, but I get it all. But in some teachings I heard, it was often said, you can watch Karl, you are not Karl. No? And this is exactly the problem we are speaking about. No? I'm the knower of Karl and not Karl. No? And this leads into all these problems.
All these problems.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There are just too many problems. And
Yeah, no,
this
it's
is-
often...
Yeah. See, these are, it's very nice because you
Yeah.
immediately get rid of everything
Yeah,
saying that
yeah.
I'm mother, but it doesn't lead to anything very concrete.
So that means
If the knowledge is really firm, stable, and anger is arising, you have to inquire in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. See, still, because sometimes you never know what is triggering it. See, once you become, if you're a person who knows the reality,
Yeah.
the mind has its own logic. What is the cost? Tell me. There is no cost. You just will look, anything happens. You know, the first reaction that happens, you say, oh, the stock market went down. What is your first thing? Why? What is wrong with that? So that means anything that happens in your way of thinking, it's very healthy to ask why. Why should you even stop? Even if you have a lot of clarity, why should you stop? What makes you afraid of asking that question? What is wrong with that question? Mind is not perfect. It's true, it's a fact. Mind is an instrument, it's a fact. If there is some problem with the mind, why are you so identified with it and telling yourself, now I'm a jnani and therefore I should not even look into it? Why not? If you are really a jnani, you don't have a problem in looking into anything. It's only because your eye is still identified, you want to ignore it. That need to ignore means there is still identification. It's a justification. Oh, now I know it, therefore I don't need to look into it. Hey, that is just hiding behind the so-called false facade of knowledge. If the hand is bleeding, you will say, oh, I'm a jnani and I'm not the body, so let it bleed. Hey, no.
a good example.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the same thing with reference to your mind. Hey, if there is something, you have to look into it. You don't just say, oh, I'm now a jnani, I know Atma. Atma is never touched by anything, therefore I'll ignore it. And that shows you have a huge problem with dissociation. What is natural, you don't want to take care of.
In fact, most people suffer because they suppress this for a long period of time, and after some time they don't know why things are happening to them and why they are reacting. it's deep they have suppressed because they think it's not good to show.
Exactly.
So facing up to it.
Facing up to it is lovely, and you don't lose anything, because if you really understood, you are just fixing, like you're fixing the hand, you're fixing here, what's the big deal?
So this work has to go on.
This work
It
has
doesn't
to
matter
go on.
if you are jnani or not, a wise man or not, but this work has to go
Because
on.
see,
And it makes no sense to say I'm the knower of this jerk.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think at no point you can't ignore Ishvara because it's ongoing.
It's ongoing, absolutely. And you know, like how our teacher used to say, now imagine, in order for the knowledge to take place, for example, you need to have settled account with Ishvara. So that means you need to have looked into your emotions, you need to have looked into your attitudes, your implicit values, your dharma, your everything has to be pretty clean. But now, so that means you are basically a very kind of clear, that you operate from clarity. There is nothing which is hidden, nothing which is unsettled, nothing which is, everything is like brought out and dealt with. So that means you are not carrying any baggage with you. A jnani is not carrying any baggage. Dealt with, not because it kind of you're convincing yourself that I'm above it all, because it's dealt with. Now, he said, even though the person is not carrying any baggage because things are addressed and dealt with, and one has gotten well with the understanding of Ishvara, still you can always be little more compassionate. You can always be little more understanding.
And it's not possible to deal with everything 100%.
Absolutely. Exactly. Because when you deal with things, it is at the level of mind. Mind has to be well enough to understand the reality. But there is no 100% perfection at the level of mind. But that, because there is no 100% perfection, you can't use it as an excuse not to deal with the mind. So that means, at the level of mind, I can always be more content. I always ask myself, hey, how can I communicate better? Why not? Why not? What have I got to lose? Tell me. How can I address the needs of the people better? What? I can always do a little bit more. That's why I rely on feedback of people. I want to know. And I also question myself very often. Why not? What do you lose? Tell me. You don't lose anything if you've understood it. That think that now I know it, and this is that means that you artificially justifying things. That means there is no understanding. So therefore, so this is what the meditation, the purpose of meditation is. One needs reorientation because the rewriting a story, as Ruth says, is not an easy thing. And that requires time, it requires effort, it requires integrity, it requires this whole understanding of Ishvara, it requires all of that. And using the knowledge of Ishvara intelligently, at the appropriate way to get well. So, we will see in the next class, the next verse. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamad